Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to another Chromatic Cube draft. Today is going to be my final Chromatic Cube draft as Adventures in the Forgotten Realms is right around the corner. So we will be hopping into those very soon, this Thursday and then every day for as long as I can handle it. So without further ado, let's see if we can't give the Chromatic Cube drafts the swan song that they deserve. Just have a fantastic another 7-win run at the end here. I'll do the best I can and see if we can't draft something sweet. I'll also probably try to focus a little bit on maybe drafting something a little different than I have done before. We've been drafting a lot of 5-color stuff, a lot of 3-color stuff, a lot of the kind of stuff you are definitely supposed to be focused on in the cube, going many colors and playing a lot of big value plays, a big massive 5 to 7 mana cards, having some ramp and stuff. I do think those generally tend to be the best in this cube, but there are also aggressive strategies, those of which I have not played very often, and I think that the best aggressive strategies in this cube actually lean more into white than any other color, and for that reason, I think I'm going to first pick one of these solid white aggressive cards. So Lurrus of the Dream Den I don't think is going to work that well. There just aren't that many cheap cards, like 1 or 2 mana ones, but Skyclave Apparition is going to be exceptional in any white deck, but in the aggressive decks, this is really nice because it's a 3 mana 2/2 that clears out one of your opponent's early plays, one of their cards that costs 4 or less, gets that out of the way for the rest of your field to come attacking in. And we do see some other great aggressive white cards here. Unbreakable Formation can save your whole field from a Wrath effect or let you push in for a very good attack, giving your whole field a +1/+1 counter, Vigilance, and Indestructible until end of turn, so really just bashing in when you cast that during your main phase. Alternatively, Felidar Retreat makes every land that you draw into just another threat, another good card. You get a 2/2 out, or get a +1/+1 counter onto the whole field and give them Vigilance till end of turn, very similarly to the addendum on Unbreakable Formation there. So both of these cards very good. Nice follow-ups to Skyclave Apparition, as we can stay in just white, although ideally I think the absolute best aggressive deck in this format is Boros. You do have cards like Venerable Warsinger here that give you really great value. 3 mana for a 3/3 Vigilance Trample that returns creatures with mana value less than the damage it dealt from your graveyard to your hand. So grab a 3 or less drop back onto the field if one of your early creatures has died. So I do think going Boros seems solid as well. But here I'm just going to slam down. I think a Felidar Retreat's what I'm going to go for here. It's the kind of card that gives us consistent value throughout the game as long as it's out on the field, regardless of what we're drawing. So even if we're drawing poorly, we can still be doing stuff. So I do like cards like that here. And I'm taking that Felidar Retreat. So out of this pack, I think, again, we're just going to go with another white card. There is a Field of the Dead here. If you're drafting entirely to win, I might just slam Field of the Dead and completely give up on the aggressive strategy here. I think I've drafted Field of the Dead many, many times, though, and slower, more multicolored strategies. So just in the interest of doing something a bit different here, I think I'm going to still take an aggressive card. But these two cards don't necessarily tie us entirely into aggro. Both of these cards would work well in like a 3-color mid-range deck as well, just like Bant mid-range. Use this as a removal spell, use this to spit out tokens, just slam that Field of the Dead here and start moving more into that kind of slower mid-rangey build. I think that would be my recommendation here personally, but again, gonna stick aggressive here. I think I'm gonna take Bounty Agent. It's just really important to get cheap creatures to curve out really well. This one's a 2 mana 2/2 Vigilance that can also destroy some stuff. There are a lot of legendary cards in this cube, as you can see, Muldrotha, Dovin in the same pack. The other card there, Bosriket, is, in my opinion, one of the weaker planeswalkers, one of the weakest planeswalkers on Arena as a whole. I'm just not a huge fan of that card. Just putting a +1/+1 counter onto stuff is a pretty slow way to buff things. So I'm not a big fan of Bosriket, so I'll just take Bounty Agent over that. And here we can just slam down a Charming Prince. Again, we're sticking to just mono white here. We can also take a Cliff Trop Retreat, because I do think red-white would be the most likely color scheme for us. But green-white +1/+1 counters can also pan out to be a very powerful, very aggressive deck. So we could even just take a Pelt Collector here, because that will work well in green-white +1/+1 counters. This card getting +1/+1 counters as you're creating larger creatures or as your larger creatures are dying. So Pelt Collector or Charming Prince are the choices here. Charming Prince gives us that scry if it's our only creature on the board. Alternatively, it lets us get an Enter the Battlefield effect again, which can be pretty good. Right now, we don't really have anything we'd want to double up. Maybe Skyclave Apparition. We would give them the Illusion token when we do that, but then we get to exile another card. I think I will take the Charming Prince here. We'll see if we get any nice enter the battlefield stuff. And here we can just take Embercleave here and now just slam right into Boros. Again, I'm seeing some incredibly powerful stuff out of these packs in terms of just some of the best cards in the whole cube. Fires of Invention, another card in the last Chromatic Cube draft. I used this to great effect, leading into a 7-win run. Highly recommend checking out that last draft if you are interested in seeing just how powerful Fires of Invention can be in this format. It fixes your mana perfectly. If you have 5 lands out, it doesn't matter what lands they are, you can cast any of these cards up here because you just get to cast them regardless of what you have in hand. And if you have any creatures or just cards in general with with activated abilities, say you have a 5-mana creature that also has like a 4-mana activated ability. Now all of a sudden with Fires of Invention, you get to put that creature out for free, and then you just immediately have the mana up to use its activated ability. So I do think Fires of Invention a very powerful card. But again, I'm going for the more aggressive strategy. I'm going to slam down an Embercleave, an incredible card to curve into in an aggressive deck, often just ending the game on the spot. +1/+1 double strike trample, really stacking on the damage. And here we can take a Nahiri, Era of the Ancients. Boros does have a pretty major equipment theme in this cube. They did want to make things definitely much different than the other cubes, even for the very few strategies that are still somewhat similar. Boros is pretty much always aggro, but now it's kind of equipment-based aggro, or at least that's what they're trying to do with it. So Nahiri seems like a fine choice for us here, creating 1/1s throughout, and they get the equipment that you have to attach to them for free, which is nice. So Embercleave, instead of paying 3 to re-equip it, we just immediately equip it to that. We get to look for warriors and equipment. That part's not so good. But Nahiri's -3 as well can deal damage to stuff equal to the number of equipment we have. And there are some really good equipment cards in this cube. Of course, there's Embercleave, but there's also Bone Splitter, I believe it's called. There's Shadow Spear, just stuff like that. There are some powerful equipment cards that we can pick up later, which would be good in the red-white color scheme. Now we have Stone Coil Serpent. This card's nice because just whatever mana you have available at the time, you're going to be getting a good deal for it. 2 mana, 2/2 reach, trample, protection, multicolored is fine. 5 mana, 5/5 reach, trample, protection, multicolored is fine. Whatever mana you're spending this for, you're always getting a good deal. You're always just going to have a creature available on curve, so that is nice. But Bishop of Binding is nice too, but it does seem a little bit slow. Exile a creature as long as this is out. That's probably pretty good in an aggressive deck. I guess I'll scoop up a Bishop of Binding here. It's a temporary exile spell, so it exiles as long as Bishop's out. So if they kill your Bishop, they do get back whatever you exiled. But even temporary exiling something can be a pretty big deal in an aggressive deck. Just get it out of the way long enough to chip in for a lot of damage. Here we can take a Thriving Heath. This is just going to be an enters the battlefield tapped red-white dual land for us. Not the most exciting card, but certainly the best card for what we have here. I suppose the only other options here would mainly be to take like a blue card like Whirler Rogue here, maybe be like blue-white aggressive deck, but I'm definitely, as I've said before several times, leaning towards aggro, so I don't really want any of those slower cards there. Here, I definitely like Lurrus. Lurrus did wheel all the way around, which is pretty cool. We do have some cards that combo with Lurrus as well. Of course, Lurrus, allowing you to cast all of your cheap cards from your graveyard, all your permanents that cost 2 or less. We have a couple now. We have Bounty Agent and Charming Prince, and both of these are pretty fun combos with Lurrus. They have good enter the battlefield effects. Well, Charming Prince has a good enter the battlefield effect to loop over and over. So like you play Charming Prince to Lurrus, and then you just like chump block with Charming Prince if you're on the offensive, and then just do it again later. That can be a lot of fun. And then Bounty Agent's really fun to loop with Lurrus. If your opponent has more legendary permanents out, you can just keep shredding all their legendary stuff. Oh, you know what I just realized? Bounty Agent can't destroy Planeswalkers. That's really sad. That's very sad. Destroy legendary permanents that aren't Planeswalkers. All right, well, now I know. So now we have Venerable Warsinger or Unbreakable formation. I think both of these are quite good, but I'll go ahead and roll with the Venerable Warsinger. Now we're getting a lot of just value, like attrition kind of cards, Lurrus of the Dream Dead and Warsinger here to bring back all our early creatures after they've traded off, so we really want to take those 1/2 mana creatures quite heavily. We could take the Bosri Ket now. Bosri did wheel, but again, Bosri does feel real slow to me in general, so I'm not a huge fan. We could just take Goldvein Pick to have more equipment, although I don't know how good that'll be. We'll see. I am going to slam down the Goldvein Pick. I think I'm just enough of a a naysayer on Bosri to just pass it up there. Here I'm going to take Zakama because it's the closest to our colors, and a 9-mana card is definitely castable in an aggressive deck, right? No, it's just because I'm not playing Animation Module or anything else in that pack, so I might as well. Again, not going to cast any of these. We did make a Yarok deck once. Yarok and Field of the Dead in the same deck. That was really fun. Tazri's remotely castable. We could cast Tazri just as a 5-mana 4/6, I guess. Unlikely to do much with it, but definitely castable. Now we have... we've got some options here. We have a Swift Blade Vindicator. This is a fantastic creature to suit up with some equipment. 2 mana for a 1/1 double strike, vigilance, and trample. The best equipment to throw on this is something like Bone Splitter that's really cheap to get out and equip. Just +2/+0. Now you've got a 3/1 double strike, vigilance, trample, so I think that is going to be a very solid card for the Boros decks. We have Elspeth, Sun's Nemesis. She can spit out human soldier tokens, she can buff your field, and she can escape from the graveyard and do it all over again later. So Elspeth's a nice resilient threat. Karn's going to be a bit slow for us, I think, but generally Karn tends to be a good card draw engine for any deck with the +1 and -1 ability, but I don't think we'll be doing that. Magda could be interesting here. Just a 2/1 that attacks in, creates some treasure tokens every time that we do, which helps us dump our hand even quicker. Like if we play Magda turn 2, then turn 3 we have our 3rd land out, attack with Magda, get a treasure, play 2 more 2-mana cards. So a lot of good stuff here. I think I'm going to slam down a Swiftblade Vindicator. Maybe we're supposed to take one of the monocolored cards first, like Magda or Elspeth, just because they would be less likely to wheel, but I do think that Swiftblade Vindicator is probably the best card of the 3 if we're not taking into account what may or may not wheel there. So I'm fine with the pick. And here we do see a SRAM, Senior Edificer, which is going to be great for the equipment deck. We're drawing a card whenever we cast an equipment now, as well as auras and vehicles, but I think we're pretty unlikely to be playing any of those. Otherwise, we do have Fiery Emancipation, which does look like a super expensive card. It's a 6-mana card that doesn't do anything the turn you play it, but it actually is a lot better than that, a lot better than it seems. You slam this down for 6 and you probably already have a bunch of creatures on the field that are going to be attacking, so it actually does just have an immediate major impact on the game, and often can win the game on the spot if you have enough cards out. So Fiery Emancipation is definitely a choice here, but I think that SRAM is the more synergistic card for what we could be going for here, so I'm pretty excited to try out the SRAM. If nothing else, we have an Abrade that can get an early blocker out of the way or destroy an artifact in the late game. Lorehold Command, which is a very versatile card. You make a 3/2, or you deal 3 to something, or you give your whole field +1/+1 indestructible and haste. Circle of Loyalty is good here, giving her whole field +1/+1 and then spitting out more creatures later, and spitting out legendary, or spitting out 2/2s whenever we cast a legendary. And then there's like Lannery, which is just a great aggressive attacker. Really like a lot of cards here. Abrade, Lorehold Command, Captain Lannery, I think are my top 3, followed by the Circle of Loyalty, maybe even Brash Taunter. But yeah, between these 3, it's a pretty hard choice. I'm thinking we don't have a lot of removal right now. We have Skyclave Apparition, Bishop of Binding, which are good. We probably do want some more removal. I mean, that being said, the removal we have is real good. I'll take an Abrade here. Hopefully we can wheel Lorehold Command. At least it's more likely than wheeling Abrade. But now we see pretty much the perfect card for us. Maul of the Skyclaves. We are already going for a equipment theme. And this, again, one of the really powerful equipments. This one equips itself for free. 3 mana to give +2/+2 flying and first strike. Imagine the bonkers curve of turn 2 Swiftblade Vindicator. All of a sudden, turn 3 Maul of the Skyclaves, which automatically equips itself to the Swiftblade Vindicator. Now we have a 3/3 flying vigilance double strike trample. Really absurd curve. That could be a very fun time. And Maul of the Skyclaves just on any creature, just on a SRAM is good. Now we have a 4/4 flying first strike on turn 3. So Maul of the Skyclaves, very happy to take that here. Just slam that down, give us the goods. Now we have Winota, Joiner of Forces. I don't know how well this is going to work in what we're doing. It depends on our human count, really. We have 4 humans. We could try to draft around Winota, but we're already drafting around equipment. So I think I'll be taking Halvar, the God of Battle, instead, which does a lot more for the equipment decks. Halvar, if we cast the creature half of this card, it's a 4-mana 4/4 that gives all of our equipped creatures double strike, which is excellent with Maul of the Skyclaves, Goldvein Pick, just any equipment, period. I guess it doesn't combo that well with Embercleave because Embercleave already gives double strike, but it also lets us move our equipment around at the beginning of combat for free, and it gives us another powerful equipment spell, the Sword of the Realms, on the back half of this card. So Halvar, very nice card for us. There's also a red-white dual land, but generally the less multicolored your deck is, the less important the mana fixing is, to the point where I think we can take a Halvar here. Mana fixing is still definitely important, and we're aggressive enough that we need to make sure that we have both of our colors very early on, like we need red-white on turn 2 rather than much later in the game, like if we were in a slower deck. So it is actually a big decision to take Halvar over the dual land there. It's not insignificant that we just did that. And that's important to keep in mind. So now we have Ancestral Blade, which is another equipment. I think I want to go with Ancestral Blade, but man, this pack is powerful. Bowser's Lieutenant, History Benalia, and Angel of Invention. All these cards, really, really powerful stuff. Yeah, actually, I don't have a lot going on top end. I think I'm going to slam down an Angel of Invention, but that was a really hard pick. I really like that... oh no, Luminarch Aspirant and Bone Splitter. The distribution of the cards in these packs is really bad for us. If these were just like one pack apart, that would be so good. But having to pick one of these two, and it's late enough that neither will wheel, even though probably no other person wants them, is definitely rough. But yeah, we really want Bone Splitter with Swiftblade Vindicator here, although Luminarch Aspirant works well with Swiftblade Vindicator as well, but we have a lot of equipment tribal going on. This is such a rough pick here. But I'm going to go with the Bone Splitter. It does feel really bad to lose out on the Luminarch Aspirant there. And wow, this draft has been pressuring us with a lot of just very high pressure decisions like that, to the point where I completely lost my train of thought on whatever I was saying earlier, so my apologies on that. But here I'll choose a God of Storytelling. It's really nice on both halves of the card. The front half allows us to get that red mana whenever we're casting a spell, basically get a 1 mana discount on everything we're casting, which makes it easier to spam out like 2 creatures a turn. And the back half of the card, of course, is just a great late game card to keep us drawing actual spells to cast, the Horn of Bounty. So really nice either way. So Evolving Wilds is a choice here if we want some more duels, or Elspeth, but ideally we want untapped duels much more highly than tapped duels because we are pretty aggressive. Godpharaoh's Gift was also an option there, because Godpharaoh's Gift is just a really nice card to slam down after you've traded a bunch of creatures, which is possible in this deck. We do have a good amount of creatures. We've got 12 right now. We're likely to get even more in the last pack. So Godpharaoh's Gift would be another Fiery Emancipation kind of late game card that's going to have a really high impact, but is also going to be really expensive. Did wheel the Circle of Loyalty. That's not bad at all. We might try that out in here. I'm not certain on it. And now we are slamming down a bunch of cards we won't play. Although we do get the Ancestral Blade here, pick 14. Really happy about that. Maybe we can wheel something even in pick 15. That would be beautiful. Nah, just a Vizier of Many Faces. All right. Just wheeling the Ancestral Blade was a really big pickup. Another 2-mana 2/2. That one happens to be an equipment as well, so we can move around later. That's, yeah, pretty excellent pickup all around. Very happy to see that. So now we have a Regal Caracol, very similar to the Angel of Invention, so I kind of feel like we have that covered a little bit. The Angel doesn't give us lifelinkers, but it does split out into more creatures, gives our whole field +1/+1. The Caracol only gives the cats +1/+1. I think that's probably not the pick here, just because we have that kind of effect on lock. Dragonkin Berserker is really nice, giving us a 2-mana 2/2 on curve to attack in, and also a late game kind of bomb, because when you attack with this late game, you spit out a 5/5 dragon, even if it dies on that attack. So I like Dragonkin Berserker a lot. I like Shadow Spear a lot, but we're doing pretty well on equipment, I think. Yeah, we have 5 equipment already. So while Shadow Spear is good, we're doing pretty well on equipment to the point where I can even cut like a Goldvein pick, and still 4 equipment's probably good enough. We might cut down on the equipment theme a little bit. But yeah, pretty happy to take Dragonkin Berserker. There were some other cards in there that I didn't mention that I think are also quite good, but I think Dragonkin's my favorite there, just for that versatility of coming out on the turn 2, giving us a large stack of creatures to get out on turn 2 to really try to come in quickly onto the board, get committed to the board before all of these slower 3+ color decks can really do anything about it. Having just tons of 1-2 mana creatures here, especially with all the equipment, so that even if we top deck the small creatures late game, they still turn into something pretty big, is really nice. So I do like slamming down all those creatures. And here I'll take an Usher of the Fallen, although Shatter Skull Smashing definitely an option as well, giving us another way to clear creatures off the board, some more removal. But the 1 mana creature in the deck with a lot of equipment, I'm definitely a massive fan of, especially because it also spits out little 1/1 human warriors. If nothing else, those can also just pick up equipment and start bashing in that way. So I do like Thraben Inspector here. This card doesn't look very exciting, but the fact that it just replaces itself by just sacrificing that clue token whenever you've got the extra mana and nothing else to do is really nice. In terms of card advantage, it's a free creature, not in terms of mana input. It does cost quite a bit of mana, 3 total to get that card out of it. But it's just nice to get that creature out early, get something to throw equipment onto, get that card draw later. That's super fine. Selfless Glyph Weaver, I suppose we could take. It could save the rest of our field from a Wrath, but we're never doing Deadly Vanity, so it's definitely not at its best here. Reese is cool, but Reese is definitely pretty slow for aggro. And then there's like On Sarah's Wings, which can be really fun, but I definitely prefer equipment because you can't get 2 for 1 with equipment. You can definitely get 2 for 1 with On Sarah's Wings. You just cast that on something and then they Doomblade it. And you're like, well, that is a sad day for me. So not a huge fan of the aura here. And wow, some great stuff here. I'm going to hope that Cole the Forge Master can wheel, because Cole's going to be a really fun card for us and a really powerful card for us, buffing all of our equipped creatures that are tokens and returning any of our equipped creatures that dies that are not. I feel like we're probably the only person that's going to have enough equipment to want this card, and one of the only people in red-white. So I'm just going to take Elite Spellbinder, which is a lot more likely to get taken by other people, and is another great aggressive card. Paula Vitor Dama de Rosa is an exceptional flyer that slows down your opponent by exiling one of their cards in hand. Ideally, you exile whatever they want to play in the next turn, and all of a sudden they can't do that. Now they have to wait 2 more turns at minimum because you make it cost 2 more to cast. So really excellent aggressive card there. Hinders your opponent's game plan quite a bit. Good stuff all around. Here, I guess we'll take a High Sentinels of Erishan. 4 mana for a 3/4 flyer. Can start dumping +1/+1 counters onto your creatures, which is nice if you have nothing else to do with your mana. Pretty solid card here. There's nothing else for an aggressive deck. There's Chamber Sentry, Azor's Gateway, Double Vision, Gadrick. All these cards are very slow. Even Yorion here, pretty slow. I guess we could double up and enter the battlefield effect, but I'll just take the High Sentinels. I don't think I'm likely to play that or the Yorion here, though. Well, we could definitely play a Scavenge Blade. It's the strictly worse Bone Splitter, but it's still solid. 2 mana, it equips itself immediately, so it's a good card on the Swiftblade Vindicator, just like before. It does cost quite a bit to re-equip it, though. 3 mana to move it around, whereas Bone Splitter, of course, only 1 to move around. That is the one thing. When you see the equipment that we used to get when they first made equipment, of course, Mirrodin, the set that Bone Splitter's from, is the first set that ever had equipment. The equipment in that set were absolutely phenomenal. So like cards like Bone Splitter, you just don't see these anymore. Now our modern day Bone Splitter costs 2 mana to play it in the first place and then 3 to start moving it around instead of just that 1 for both. So that's a bit rough, but it's still playable when we have enough cards that care about equipment or just enough creatures to throw them onto. So I think we're doing pretty low on removal spells, and we do have 17 creatures now, which is good. So I'll just slam down a Fire Prophecy here and get another card to clear a creature out of the way over the Direfleet Daredevil, which is just another good 2-drop that has versatility late game, but I think we've got a good amount of those. So we could release the dogs. If nothing else, as I've said before, these tokens can just like get suited up with some equipment, but I don't think we have a lot that cares about getting our board quite wide, so I'm not super pumped about that. I'll just take a Cavalier Flame here, just a big old 6/5 that can buff the whole field, give it haste. Can even do some damage when it comes in if we, or can do some damage when it dies if we have any lands on our graveyard, which we could do by discarding lands to its enter the battlefield effect. So that's kind of okay. I guess we do get to take the Regal Caracol because nothing else in this pack is for us. There's a green dual land, there's a Mirage Mirror, a Cody, a Rowan. Yeah, none of these are for us. We'll just take a Caracol. Now we have a Sigiled Sword of Valoron to get another good equipment. This one is a lot of mana invested into it, though. I'm definitely a much bigger fan of the ones like Bone Splitter. Not the biggest impact. It's only giving +2/+0, but the mana investment is so cheap, which is what makes it so excellent. Just one to play, one to re-equip. Sigiled Sword, you're getting a lot more out of it, but it is costing a lot to do it. We could also just take Captivating Crew, but that is also a high mana investment. We have Reese the Redeemed. We have Selfless Cliffweaver. Fortunately, I think all the red-white duels happened in the first couple packs, and we already passed up on them, so we're kind of hosed on the dual lands front. Yeah, Riz just seems too slow to me for this deck, so I'm just going to take a Cliffweaver. And we do wheel Cole the Forge Master. Very happy to slam Cole into here. Get in our deck. Suit up our equipped creatures with invincibility. I don't know if that's the right word. Technically not invincible. They do die, but they go back to our hand when they die. All right. So we have 53 cards here. We get to cut a lot of stuff, and I am very much liking the look of this aggressive Boros deck. Very happy to get to try out one of the most aggressive strategies in this cube before it goes away. This seems like a great way to end the cube, whatever happens with our win rate. This deck looks pretty sweet, so we'll see how well this is going to actually go here. So I'm thinking about, we do have a lot of 2-mana stuff, so we're much more likely going to be just dropping a creature turn 2, dropping the equipment a little later. So I'm thinking we might be able to cut like the Scavenge Blade Goldvein pick here and try out the Sigiled Sword. Again, this does seem quite slow. We are really aggressive. We have 1-mana creatures. We have a lot of 2- and 3-mana creatures. So we have a lot going for us to just get things out good as aggressive as possible. And that 6-mana investment for the Sigiled Sword is quite a bit on us. That is quite taxing. This is a much later game card than it looks like because of that investment. Even though we only have to pay 3 mana each time, we only have to pay 3 to play it and then only 3 to equip it. That's so rough. Like if we play a creature turn 2 and then we play this turn 3, we're not like putting any more power onto the board, like where we could have just played like a 3/1 flyer or a 3/3 vigilance or anything like that. And then we even have to take the next turn off to equip it. You know, I'm thinking the Sigiled Sword is probably the first equipment I should cut, even just because of how much of a mana investment is. Ancestral Blade, I'm definitely not cutting, because just a 2-mana 2/2 that happens to leave behind an equipment is pretty excellent here. Really good with Cole, really good with SRAM. All of a sudden now it's a 2-mana 2/2 that draws a card when we play it with SRAM, or it's a 2-mana 3/3 with Cole. So that's super cool. So yeah, that's all excellent. We got a last pick, Anointed Procession. I don't think this is an Anointed Procession deck. We do have a little bit of token production. You know, we've got Dragonkin Berserker, we've got Usher of the Fallen, we've got actually, you know, a decent bit, but even with that, even with Regal Caracol, Angel Invention, Nahiri, Elspeth, we're aggressive enough that, again, I don't think this is the kind of deck that's going to want to take a turn off to make their next turn more explosive. We want just immediate impact with our cards. We want to immediately just be like, bam, now we're flying, we're in the sky, we're bashing in for more damage, bam, now we're double striking with damage, and we've got 4 more power on the board. Bam, now we just have 3 more power on the board, just stuff like that. So I don't think this is an Anointed Procession deck, although there's definitely an argument for putting in the Procession. We have token production, we have things that would be pretty explosive with it, but again, I think that's just pretty slow. Even Felidar Retreat, which I took early on as an quote-unquote aggressive card, is looking too slow for how aggressive this deck has become. I did not realize you could get this aggressive in this cube, because so many of the decks are just like 5-drop tribal, just splashing into all of the just big, powerful, explosive plays later. We're definitely cutting Tazri here. Probably cutting more 5-drops. Circle of Loyalty also seems pretty slow. Fire Emancipation seems slow. Keep that Embercleave for sure. Embercleave is excellent in here. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 equipment. Is that really enough for Nahiri, SRAM, Cole, and Halvar? I guess we have 5 equipment, because we have Sword of the Realms as well, potentially. Might want to put 1 equipment back in. Our choice is to put back in our Scavenged Blade, which equips immediately when we play it, so it does have an immediate impact. I do like that quite a bit. Gold Vein Pick, which helps us hit those 4 or 5 mana cards, which is nice if we're hitting people, but it isn't the biggest buff, and it is quite a mana investment as well, although it does give you a bit of a reimbursement on that with the treasure tokens. Not a huge fan of the Gold Vein Pick. Yeah, and then the Sigil Sword of Valor, just by far the most expensive. I think I'm going to put the Scavenge Blade back in here so we can be a 5 equipment deck again. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, and then we'll cut the pick, cut the sword, and yeah, make some more cuts. Do feel like we have a pretty high non-creature count here, but that's kind of going to happen when we have to run a ton of equipment in here to make the most of our cards. 2 of our non-creature cards are creatures. Actually, 3 of them. Elspeth and Nahiri are spitting out creatures, although they are really small creatures for the mana cost. Ancestral Blade is functionally just a creature. It's a 2 mana 2/2. It is the correct power and toughness for the mana cost. So we have 20 creatures plus 3 cards that make creatures. We can definitely cut some creatures out of here, but I don't want to cut too many. So what are our worst creatures? Probably like the Glyph Weaver, maybe even the God of Storytelling here. I do like the flexibility being the 5 mana draw spell as well, but just the 3 mana 3/3 is not super exciting. High Sentinels doesn't do much with our deck, but we don't have a lot of flying, so having an evasive threat later can be good. We do have like Elite Spellbinder outside of that, but that's about it. Angel of Invention as well. Angel of Invention I think is definitely better in here than the Regal Caracol because of the fact that the Angel buffs the whole field instead of just the cats, and it gives us another flying threat. Flying threats are very good with equipment. And just in general for closing out the game. So I like taking out the Caracol. Cavalier Flame does seem like kind of a bit of mana for us, so we might be able to cut that just for that reason. Cut down on the curve, get really low here. We need to cut 9 cards, and right here that's 8. We could cut all of the cards that we put in the maybe pile and then cut 1 land and call it a day. Seems kind of okay to me. Let's see. Our average is 2.7. Our average is pretty low, and Halvar can be a 2 mana equipment. We do want to have some extra mana when we hit later in the game because we do want to move these equipment around after they've, after whatever has the maul on it dies. It is going to cost 4 to re-equip it, so we have to be taking these equipment counts into consideration as we consider if we want 17 or 16 lands in here, because there's going to be later turns we want to like play a 3 mana card and then also potentially equip a 3 mana equip effect or even a 4 mana equip effect. I think this is definitely the kind of deck. I haven't used a lot of these cards, like a lot of these equipment matters cards, so I'm not sure exactly how good they're all going to be. So this is the kind of deck I could definitely adjust as I go if I was the kind of person that remembers to do that. Of course, I'm not, so we're probably just running with whatever I decide here for the whole time, but I think I'm going to cut a land here. And then again, as I said before, we have so many other good cards in our colors. This is the deck we can make all kinds of little tweaks and adjustments to. If any card highly underperforms, we could just move it around with something else that seems like the kind of thing we'd need. Like if we were finding that we were always needing flyers, we can just slam this High Sentinels back in and stuff like that. If we need more mana sinks, it also works for that. Or like Circle of Loyalty is a good mana sink. Yeah, I think I'm going to run with it as is. Just cut 1 land here. Let's see how our mana is looking. We have 18 white cards, 9 red cards. All right, goodbye, Mountain. That was pretty easy. Now we have 10 white sources. Actually, this is a dual land, so we have 8 white sources, 7 red sources, and 1 dual land. Yep, seems pretty good to me. So here is our final Chromatic Cube draft deck. Boros Equipment, a really spicy looking aggro deck. I'm really excited to try this out. Now, the thing is, as powerful as this looks, as good as the curve looks, you do always have to remember this cube has absolutely explosive plays in it at like 5 mana and up. So we could have the perfect game where we're curving out super well. We've got our equipment on our double striking creature and stuff. We could put our opponent down to 5 or something, and then our opponent could always just go cast off Destroy All Non-Giants, and then like next turn with some ramp spells just be like, bam, Nicol Bolas, I win on the spot. So You have to have a very good aggressive deck to really have it work in this cube. So I've got my fingers crossed here that we can get out the ground or get on the ground running fast enough to wipe out these opponents before they bomb us out of the game. So here we are in round 1, and our opponent has started with a blue-green dual land and an evolving wild, so I expect we are against your standard chromatic cube deck here. Something probably 3+ colors, and there's a mountain, so they're at least green, blue, and red here. So what do I want to play turn 2 here? Do I want Charming Prince so I can scry and set up my draws? Do I want SRAM so if I plan to play any artifacts, any equipments, I can just draw a card immediately? Do I want to just play the Sword of the Realms? I don't think it's that. We're definitely putting some power on this board. We already know we're going to hit the second white mana and be able to just slam down Skyclave Apparition next turn, so I don't think scrying is incredibly important right now. I think we can just go SRAM and then scry next turn if we need to, and if they play a card, we can get rid of it with Apparition. We could maybe just slam down a Sword of the Realms next turn, but we probably don't want to do that. Probably rather just hold on to Halvar and get more power directly onto the board first. So there's a black source from our opponent, so they're looking 5 color here, green, blue, red, black. The only color they're off right now is white mana. But they can't have green and blue here. They can have green or blue. So they do go ahead and slam down a Mythos, just get rid of SRAM right there. So we cannot play the Skyclave Apparition here. I think now is definitely a good time to scry, make sure we hit that 4th mana, hopefully a 2nd red for the Embercleave. That way we can get Halvar out, we can get Elspeth out, we can cast Cole and Sword of the Realms in the same turn instead if we want to do that. 4th mana looks pretty important here. We can also see what we're hitting and make sure we're hitting stuff that matters in this matchup. So, like, yeah, now we get to get rid of 1 land. Yeah, that was a pretty good scry. Make sure we hit our 4 mana cards and also make sure we don't flood into 5 mana here. Or at least helps us potentially not flood into 5 mana. The next card after this mountain could be a 3rd land in a row. Right. So I think I'm just going to slam in with Charming Prince here before I do anything else. See if they want to do anything here. Now, again, they're only off of white mana. Now they actually can do green and blue in the same turn. They can go green, red, blue, black. So there are a lot of things they could have here. Prismari Command is the play. We don't have the mana to drop the Embercleave out to save that, so it does just die, and they choose to get a treasure token. That's pretty terrifying. Do I want to play Elspeth and just start spreading out the board, getting a bunch of 1/1s? Do I want to get a 4/4 out with Halvar? Do I want to get Cole out? I could get Cole and Sword of the Realms out this turn. Although Sword of the Realms is not a great combo with Cole, because Cole's already bouncing everything to my hand if it's equipped. I'm kind of like just playing Elspeth while they're tapped out, getting a bunch of 1/1s onto this board. They're a lot harder to kill by like single target removal. And if they have to Wrath, we're only really down like 1 card, we're just down to Elspeth. Our opponent does have 6 mana now. They have had a pretty good starting suite of removal to keep us under lock here. We didn't have the most aggressive hand ever, so just having the 2 cheap removal spells is working very well for them. Mythos of Nethroi and Prismari Command to keep us off of hitting them at all here. So this is where we definitely have to start sweating in our boots, because they're getting very close to very explosive plays. 6 mana, they have mana of every color. I mean, they're at the mana they need for explosive plays if they have them in hand. It's possible they have like an Ultimatum in hand or a Bolas that costs 7, and they can't make any explosive plays, but generally I would say they have enough to do so. So this could be like a Sublime Epiphany here. I think the only thing I can do to play around a Sublime Epiphany is to just cast 2 kind of small spells here. Maybe just like cast Cole and the Sword just to get equipment out. Skyclave Apparition doesn't do anything here. I don't really want to dump the Maul of the Skyclaves out if it is an Epiphany. And even if it isn't an Epiphany, Maul of the Skyclaves on a 1/1 token is not that exciting. Yeah, we're not going to get any extra damage in here by casting things pre-combat, so let's just hit for 2, and then I think I'm going to make some tokens with Elspeth, and then cast Cole and the sword maybe here.
If you are going to fight, fight beside me.
Here's Cole. Voracious Great Shark, so not Sublime Epiphany, but still just a big counter spell. And we do make them hit our smaller spell by doing that, so... Embercleave's only going to cost 2 mana to cast if we attack with all of these human soldiers, so we will have the mana to equip the sword to one of them and then attack with all an Embercleave up the one that's equipped. That could be pretty good, and I am trying to curve out, and they're tapped out here. Although Halvar giving Double Strike is really good with Maul of the Skyclaves. That is putting less pressure on, that's making the game longer here. They only have 3 cards in hand though, so we could, fingers crossed that they're not that great. If that's the case, we just hold on to Halvar here. But if we think that these are definitely big explosive plays, we should just get the sword out here so we can lean into it next turn, equip an Embercleave, just push in a lot of damage. Yeah, I'm just going to drop the sword here. Set up a very big attack next turn. Gold Span Dragon. That is probably just going to take out Elspeth here, so we can't do the buff effect, which is very sad. Yeah, that's a massive bummer. Because the buff effect was what was going to set up for a really good attack, because then we buff both of these. The attack is 3/2s already. A 3/2 with +2 power turns it into a 5/2. So because it's a 5/2, they probably don't want to block with Great Shark, and then if they don't block with Great Shark, the 5/2 gets +1/+1 Double Strike and hits for 12 alone. So that is what would have really set us up for the big attack, but we can still go for a decently big attack here. The problem is they're probably just going to block whatever we throw the sword onto now, and we'll get in for less damage that way. That being said, we will keep it because it'll have Double Strike. So we do eat the Great Shark without losing a creature here, which is nice. Although they have potentially an instant here. They have 3 mana up because of Gold Span Dragon. Hoping for the best here. If they have another cheap removal spell, this is... Dang, yeah, this is a really interactive deck here. This is not a great matchup for us so far. So yeah, that attack could have still panned out pretty well if they were out of cheap removal there. We clear out the Great Shark, if nothing else, get in for 4 more damage than we ended up getting in for, so they'd be down to like 9. They're just going to attack in here, put us down to 11. They attack for 9 a turn. There's Murderous Rider, a lifelinking 2/3 blocker, makes it even harder to pressure in because they can block and gain life off of the block. We have Dragonkin Berserker now. We can Skyclave Apparition to get the 1 blocker out of the way and just slam in for 3. That doesn't go super well for us. They do attack back for 9 next turn. We go to 2, so they're at 10, we're at 2. We have to try to get Embercleave back onto something to get a kill. And they can just hold up a blocker if that's ever the case. Maul of the Skyclaves does soak up all our mana, but it lets us get in for damage without them blocking with the Rider. Or it lets us block like the Gold Span Dragon. It's possible we have to set up to just equip things and go for defense here, but we don't have enough mana to cast them all and equip the sword, so we won't have a big enough flying blocker to kill the Gold Span Dragon. Skyclave Apparition can't kill the 5-drops, it can only kill the Murderous Rider. We could play a Dragonkin Berserker and equip. Yeah. I mean, All of our options here are pretty bad. This one we get to pressure in for a little bit of damage because they're not going to take the trade with the Murderous Rider. Which, if we're really, really lucky, could lead us to somehow finding lethal next turn. Although I suppose it's very unlikely if they take the trade with the 1/1 there. Because now they're up to 15, we gotta somehow find lethal. Because if not, we are dead in 2 turns. I guess the Great Shark isn't flying, so we can just block that with 1/1s. So we're dead in 3 turns to the Goldspan Dragon. So we're under a lot of pressure, but not as much as I previously thought. The Voracious Great Shark, one of the few non-flying sharks you'll see in the cube. Usually the sharks are all going to come out of the Shark Typhoon, be those flying Shark Typhoon tokens. Ooh, Enter the God of Turtles is pretty disgusting here. There goes Dragonkin Berserker. Any hopes and dreams for getting a 5/5 dragon to block their 4/4 dragon are gone. And they also have another 4/4 to start attacking us with. We are in a real bad spot here. And of course the life gain off the Enter the God of Turtles puts him back to 19 as well. It is incredibly over. We can fight it out there, but the deck with a lot better late game has gotten to the winning position. They're drawing multiple cards. We have to chump block every turn. There is no way that is turning to our favor. So that game was kind of the example that I was talking about, where just having a little bit more mana would have been helpful on some turns, because then we could do things like play a 3-drop like Maul of the Skyclaves and also equip Embercleave, or play that and equip something else. So I kind of do like going back to the 17 mana here because of all the equipment, all the equip costs and stuff. So I'm kind of thinking of cutting something here. I don't want to cut any of my cheap cards, because I think that's also a thing I was missing out on a lot in that game. We were just looking for more 1/2 mana plays. So how many warriors do we have in this deck? 2. Yeah, I don't really go for any of the tribal in this Chromatic Cube. There's just too many different tribes of creatures all over. So for the -2 effect, that's just trying to grab an equipment. I have no idea what to cut here, but I feel like I should put another land in. Maybe cut 1 equipment. Maybe I do cut the Scavenge Blade, just go down to 4 equipment. Could be okay. Could cut the 3-bin Inspector, I suppose, but it is really good with Charming Prince. It's fine with all the equipment in the deck. I'll just cut a Scavenge Blade. I just want to get another land in here. After that game, it wouldn't have helped a ton. I think we would have lost either way, but it was definitely showing off the situations where just having 1 more mana would be helpful to cast something and equip. Alright, well, we got SRAM turn 2, draw a card off of SRAM with Bone Splitter. Definitely not worth a mulligan to me. We do have a lot of lands in this hand. Not a ton of action, but of course SRAM can get us into some action, hopefully, off of the card draw. Ooh, and now we have a turn 2 SRAM, turn 3 Warsinger. That is kind of curving out pretty well. Turn 3 Warsinger, turn 4 Elspeth. Problem is now we're not going to get the Bone Splitter out. And we're not going to draw that SRAM card anytime soon. Well, it's no longer a problem if they just kill SRAM. We'll play Venerable Warsinger before we play Lurrus here. Because Warsinger can get back SRAM without paying any mana. As long as it hits our opponent, we just put SRAM back on the field. But Lurrus will have to spend some mana to do so. So we could Abrade to just kill the Bone Crusher Giant. We could cast Lurrus and Bone Splitter, and then do the trade there. It's not a great trade. I think I like Abrade, kill Bone Crusher Giant, attack with Warsinger, get SRAM back for free, then we have the mana to cast Bone Splitter and equip it, so we draw the card off of Bone Splitter. And get in for more damage in the future turns. We could cast Bone Splitter and equip it right now and still Abrade, and then we get in for more damage immediately, but we don't draw the card. It's probably better to draw the card. Although, I mean, they're red, green, blue. They're a slower deck here. Maybe just maximizing damage rather than card draws big here. I mean, this is the deciding point here. Do we maximize damage, get in for 2 more damage this turn? Is 2 more damage worth a card draw, even in this matchup? I don't think so. I think the card draw is going to be more worth it overall. We hit a land here, and now we can slam this onto... Warsinger's more likely be the better target for that, unless they have the removal spell for the Warsinger here. Magda's the play. Whenever Magda becomes tapped, they get a treasure token, so that can help them cast other things, and they slam down Magda and the Whispering Raven here to have a couple blockers. And Cole, the Forge Master, is a great draw here. With Cole out, any equipped creature we have that dies just goes right back to our hand, which is phenomenal. So we can just cast Cole here, so we get an attack off with Warsinger. Even if they do the double block, it just goes back to our hand and we recast it, which is fantastic. We unfortunately don't have the mana to cast Cole and Lurrus, but Cole's definitely better than Lurrus because it lets us pressure in this attack so easily. We have nothing to bring back with Lurrus right now anyway. Do I want to move this Bone Splitter around anywhere because they've got the mana to do so? I don't think so. I think we're just keeping it on the Warsinger. Alright, just the pass turn there, and we draw into Ancestral Blade, which is nice. Could play Elspeth to buff 2 attackers here, put some extra damage out. Could draw a card off Ancestral Blade, but then I don't know if I'm casting anything else. I think I'm okay with that, because I can move this Blade over to something to recast that if it dies on attacks, which is good. We draw Thraben Inspector. Alright, I think I like moving Ancestral Blade over to SRAM. Attacking in with Warsinger and SRAM. If Warsinger dies, we aren't recasting it this turn, but if SRAM dies, we can just immediately recast SRAM. And if neither dies, we just drop Thraben Inspector. Alright, so Samut, Voice of Dissent, the instant speed, flash, double strike, vigilant, haste. Pretty crazy card, kind of hard to play around, so that kind of thing is going to happen. Guess we're going with Thraben Inspector here, because Warsinger is a 3 mana card. We don't have the mana for that. We can throw this Bone Splitter onto something now. Don't know where I want the Bone Splitter. Samut is a really good blocker. Well, this is actually just really bad for us. Double Strike Vigilance here. 3/4. We can't block it well. We can't attack into it just at all. Yeah, we need evasiveness here. We got to get our flyers against this. I guess at least because we have Bone Splitter that equips for only 1 mana, we could just keep chump blocking Samut with Thraben Inspector and getting more clue tokens. So we're getting something out of every block we make. And they're probably just going to repeatedly attack since it does have Vigilance. So Thraben Inspector is going to be very good with us. Thraben Inspector, Bone Splitter, Cole being a nice combo.
The land shall conquer you.
They're going to animate this forest here. Unfortunately, I can't kill that forest unless I lose Cole permanently. So I don't think that I'm going to do the double block on the forest, but it is an option. Oh, they just don't even attack with the forest. All right, I'm very fine with that then, because I was not going to block that forest. All right, we got another land here. Can play Lurrus, so I can just start recasting Thraben Inspector from the grave even without Bone Splitter on it. And then I can start recasting things like SRAM and stuff. So Lurrus does seem okay here, but the problem is Lurrus costs double white, so if we cast Lurrus, it's the only spell we're casting this turn. Could cast Warsinger and Inspector. And then I can also equip a Bone Splitter or sacrifice a clue. Yeah, let's do more things here. Nissa's a big problem, but we just can't break through this board state. They have a 3/4 double striker and a 5/5 to block with, so Nissa just gets to go off. Gets to do the landfall, draw cards effect. Yeah, we don't have anything that can attack in right now, because with double strike, Samut just kills our creature before we even deal damage. If we throw Ancestral Blade onto Venerable Warsinger, it will have 4 toughness, so it survives the initial attack. So Warsinger will actually trade with anything they block with next turn. It won't do it right now because it doesn't have haste. But yeah, I think I like setting up the Warsinger here for a big attack. And because I have like Luris in hand, I'm okay with just chump blocking with Thraben Inspector, even if it doesn't have a Bone Splitter on it now. But thanks to that 4 toughness, now Warsinger can actually trade with any blocker. Trade with Samut, trade with a 5/5, any of that stuff. They are going to immediately sacrifice Nissa, get the landfall ability. Whenever land enters the battlefield, they draw a card.
If I take my octopus.
So our opponent is going to be drawing cards all over the place here. They've definitely made it into their late game massive value engine kind of stuff you can get in the Chromatic Cube. So again, this is not a position we ever want to be in, but now that we're here, we got to do our best, see what we can do to possibly break through things here. And honestly, with this board state, I think I just attack with Warsinger. I mean, Cole's going to bring it back no matter what. So without any evasion, our game plan is really to just repeatedly attack in with something suited up with equipment and send it in. We have a lot of good equipment in the deck, so I think we do want to sack the clues before combat here and see if we draw into anything else to throw onto the Warsinger and get in for even more damage. So now I could sacrifice another clue, but then I can't cast Elspeth if I want to cast Elspeth, although Elspeth only gets in for 2 more damage with the -1 effect. There's no real purpose to having the 1/1s here. Yeah, Elspeth isn't great here. I'm just going to draw another card. Ooh, Halvar. Halvar for double strike if we spend that 4 mana. That's definitely better than Sword of the Realms, I think. So now we attack with Venerable Warsinger. If they block in a way that kills it, we just recast it. And then next turn we drop Halvar and re-equip everything again. Well, we do trample over for a little bit. And it didn't die here, so that's good. Just get 2 damage in, not terrible. They're down to 7, and they don't have aggro against us now that we've just really suited up the Warsinger. So Luris is the only thing we can cast here. Might as well get that on out. We definitely have a plan. Now that we've drawn Halvar, that is a big plan. Just a massive Venerable Warsinger. And then once the Warsinger dies with Cole out, it's just going to come back. We suit it up and do it again. Uh-oh. But here comes Golos. Now our opponent definitely has a plan as well. They have red, green, and blue mana? I guess they don't. Not yet. Unless they have a black-white dual land. If they have a black-white dual land, they can put that on the board. Then they go white, blue, green, red. They can use Kiora to untap the black-white dual and use Golos' ability. And yeah, they just choose a blue-red duel, so it looks like they are not the kind of deck using Golos for the massive effect. They're just using Golos to grab a land here, so luckily that Golos is nowhere near as bad as I thought it would be on initial glance. I was very terrified, but not terrible. Another Nissa, though. Another Nissa's pretty bad.
We are all the land will help us find a way.
Scry 2 every turn? I guess they're just digging for answers here, really. But they are drawing a card every time they play a land. Now they're scrying 2 every turn. They keep both on top. Yep, 2 top, 0 bottoms, what it said there, so that's terrifying. We still only have 3 white sources, so I can't cast both Halvar and Elspeth. It's definitely better to just cast Halvar here. Double Strike's going to add to a lot more damage than +2 would be here. So we do that. And then we're going to recast Warsinger because it is probably going to die here. Just re-equip it, doesn't really matter. And let's see, that's 12 trampling damage, so they can stop 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They can stop all of that damage, right? But then they block there and take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This isn't quite lethal, but it's really close. It's really close. I don't think that it's worth attacking in with everybody, because, like, what's the best block they can make if we do? They can throw Samet onto, like, Cole instead to first strike that away before, like... I guess Warsinger won't die, though, if Samet doesn't block Warsinger, because we first strike away enough stuff. Yeah... I think we can attack all here to put the pressure on, really, and we probably should. They have 2 good cards on top of their library. We get to keep Halvar here no matter what. Ooh. Math is for blockers, but I'm terrified. So they block there. They stop 9 of the 12 damage. They take 3 there. This might just be lethal. Could just be lethal. Yeah, it's just lethal. Okay. All right. I was scared there. I was scared, but it looked pretty good to me. I feel like the best case scenario for them, they could get Halvar out off the board and go to like 2 or 1. But maybe that block was the best case scenario for them, because I did not do all the math. I left it up to them. I crossed my fingers really hard. So that was some incredible stuff from Cole the Forge Master. That was massive. Being able to just repeatedly attack in, and we're like, okay, whatever. We'll trade our creatures because I can just recast my creature after it dies. That was just phenomenal the whole time. So I did really like the Cole the Forge Master there. Ooh. This is one of those sad situations where our dual land, just being a tapped dual land, is very sad because we have the 1 mana cards. We can play Cole with no equipment. We can also play Swiftblade Vindicator with no equipment. Neither of those are all that exciting. I'm definitely going to play one of the 2. They both get in for the same amount of damage, but Cole... I don't know. I'll play the Swiftblade Vindicator here in case we draw our mace, our big +2/+2 flying mace. That would be pretty big. Our opponent's on mono blue so far, but they drop a Dragon's Horde, so I have to assume they've got some red in there, if nothing else. And now we're casting a Venerable Warsinger. We can't cast 2 spells here because we just have 2 red. We only have 1 white, so we can't go Cole and Usher. We could go Fire Prophecy Usher, but there's nothing to kill with Fire Prophecy. Just get in for 2. Alright, blue-red it is. That Dragon's Horde means they have 5 mana now. They could go double red and 3 more. They could cast a Goldspan Dragon or anything like that, but Midnight Clock is the play, as well as Direfleet Daredevil. Definitely look to be somewhat of a slower deck here. A lot of mana rocks coming out for them. Could play Bishop of Binding to get that creature off the board while still putting more power on our own board, which is cool. Could also just Fire Prophecy it and cast a Cole the Forge Master, and we're still getting more power out, and then we get to draw a card off of the Fire Prophecy by getting rid of Usher of the Fallen, I guess. Because we're not going to be playing that anyway, because we're going to play a 4 mana card next turn. Yeah, I kind of like the Fire Prophecy here, get rid of the Usher. Just draw land. Probably go for a Nahiri if there's nothing to kill. If there is something to kill, we go for the Bishop of Binding and get it out of the way. In Bolas's Clutches to steal our Warsinger. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. So it goes back to our hand if we kill it, instead of exiling it. So I like trying to just get the kill on it by throwing Sword of the Realms onto Swiftblade Vindicator. Then we kill Warsinger on the block. We get Warsinger back to our hand, which is pretty nice. We could play Nahiri, but we can't do any damage with Nahiri. We could exile our Warsinger, but then we don't get our Warsinger back until they kill the Bishop of Binding, which I think they just won't do. Yeah, I don't know if this is the best, but it's pretty cool, so I'm going to go for the Sword of the Realms here. If we kill the Warsinger, it just goes back to our hand because of Cole. And if they don't block and we don't kill the Warsinger, we hit him for 6. I suppose if the Warsinger hits us, they do get Direfleet Daredevil back, but we have a first striking 3-power creature, so they have to kill the Vindicator if they want to get in with Warsinger. Alright, they discard a card to draw a card with Cavalier Flame. Alright, pass the turn, leave the blockers up. Bishop of Binding to get the Cavalier Flame out of here. Then we can... could attack with both, and we put them to 1 life if they choose to block Cole, and we get in some damage even if they block the Warsinger. We get in for 5 if they block with the Vindicator. I kind of want to just attack with Vindicator, because if we attack for both, they can stop... They're only stopping 3 damage by blocking the Vindicator. They're stopping 2 damage by blocking the Cole. They're only stopping 1 less damage, and they're actually killing one of our cards by blocking Cole. So I think if we attack both in, the blocking Cole is just the easiest play ever, and they get a lot more value by doing that. We're only pressuring 1 more point of damage by doing that. Wait, what? Oh, whenever a non-token creature you control dies. Okay, well, I was playing fancy the whole time for an effect that didn't actually work the way that I thought it did. So if they had a Cole on their board and they in Bolas's Clutchers my creature, then when my creature died, it would go back to my hand. Okay, so it's like a nombo. It's like a bad combo. It's like you don't want your mind-controlled creature to go back to your opponent's hand. Alright, misread that. So it wasn't as cool as I thought it was, but still, just throwing a Sword of the Realms onto the double striker is always going to be a mighty big game. As you can see there, it did just close things out. So 2-1 it is for Boros Equipments. Alright, opponent is on the play. This is a keepable hand. We get that Charming Prince and Scry a little bit in the start. Then we'll drop down a Dragonkin Berserker as we get closer to boasting with it. Elspeth and Angel of Invention are some pretty big plays later in the game. Pretty pumped about this one, and now we do have the 4th land, which is good. I think I need to go back to the deck build here. I like having the 17 lands, although when I threw in the 17th land, I just instinctually threw in a mountain to make the colors equal, but the colors in our deck are not equal. We have way more white, like double cards than red ones, so we need to cut a mountain and throw another plains in here, because that did come back to bite us a little bit in the last couple games. We had positions where we needed 4 white and only had 3 quite often. So, you know, because I have the right... Actually, no, I need another white source. Never mind. I was going to say, because I have the right mana, I could just play Bounty Agent and start getting in with Vigilance, but I don't have the right mana. I need another Plains pretty badly, and I'm very happy to be able to scry away the double mountain there. But yeah, I really need the Plains to cast these big spells. Fauna Shaman! Alright, opponent, you win. Your deck is better. Fauna Shaman is the best. Alright, I can attack with Charming Prince here. I don't see much that could go wrong there. Worst case scenario, we trade for some kind of combat trick. I guess if they play a flash card like Samut that I completely forgot about, that would be really bad. Right, curve out with our biggest creature here and get that Warsinger out on the board. 3/3 Vigilance Trample, even if we aren't returning anything from the grave. Ooh, Nikia of the Old Ways. Very cool deck from our opponent. That means they have a very high creature count. If they're playing Nikia of the Old Ways and they're playing Fauna Shaman, both of these cards very much prioritize drafting a boatload of creatures, running a ton of creatures in deck to really maximize their value, so that seems really fun. I'm very excited to see what our opponent has coming for us, but I also have a Bounty Agent here to just kill Nikia, so I think that's the play here. I could play Elspeth, and then I could buff the Warsinger enough, so the Warsinger is a 5-power creature to get an attack in this turn, but I think it's better to just get the Bounty Agent on board, present a way to kill Nikia if they don't kill Bounty Agent. Because Nikia is a terrifying card. They have double mana now, and it's a 5/5, so it is walling off all of our creatures here. But it's exceptionally terrible when they have the Fauna Shaman to just grab their biggest cards. So, like, if they have the mana to cast a Kama here, it might just be over. Oh my god, yeah, it's just over. The combo deck for us. being able to basically demonic tutor for the Zakama when they have double mana. And because they have double mana, they untap all the lands. Now they can just blow away our whole field, 3 damage to all our creatures here, and just end things on the spot. That is 100% just game. Yeah. I mean, there is nothing we can possibly do here. We have to be the luckiest player in the history of the game. We have to top deck Bishop of Binding into... I don't even know. But yeah, it's so over. Zakama just shreds the rest of the field. They have like 12 mana with Nikia plus Zakama here to repeatedly shred any creature I cast. If I cast Angel, they just kill it. And they kill Charming Prince as well, gain a bunch of life. Even if I spread this out into tokens, they have the mana to kill them all. Wow, that was... that was one of the biggest losses I think I've had in the Chromatic Cube as a whole. Nikia of the old ways with Fauna Shaman backup to grab Zakama, tutor for the perfect card to make use of that double mana. You get to spend all the mana to cast Zakama and untap all the lands, have that 10 or 12 or whatever mana back up again to just blow everything up. That was a phenomenal combo from our opponent. All right. Well, we have Swiftblade Vindicator with Bone Splitter and Maul of the Skyclaves. This is kind of a coin flippy sort of hand, where if they don't have cheap removal, they just die. But if they do have cheap removal, this hand is not very good, because we're going to run out of creatures very quickly. We have 2 creatures total. So, we'll see here. We'll see how things pan out. They're on green so far, and green doesn't have a lot of cheap removal, although black could. Black could. We're being hopeful here. Reach protection from multicolored? No! Oh no. Alright, well, Swiftblade Vindicator cannot get past that thing, because it can block flyers. So even if we throw the Maul onto it, it doesn't get past, and it has protection from multicolored, so it just soaks up all the damage. Well, I mean, that'll do it. We have to make sure our Vindicator has 3 toughness or more to start attacking with it, and then we just get in for a tiny bit of damage every attack. But it's nowhere near as good as it could have been. So I think I'll go for my Spellbinder next turn and try to suit up Spellbinder first. Ooh, never mind. Never mind. The Maul of the Skyclaves it is. If they're going to get in for some damage, I'm going to get in for some damage. I guess Maul of the Skyclaves only hits for +2/+2. So it only hits for 4 extra damage. Bone Splitter hits for just as much, and they're not going to block with Evolution Sage, so I can just play my tapped land here, so I have 4 mana available next turn. Although I have so many untapped lands, I can still just have 4 mana available next turn. So by playing the Maul of the Skyclaves next turn, I can play Spellbinder and equip Bone Splitter, and then the Vindicator's got everything on it. Yeah, I think I just play the Maul of the Skyclaves here. Because I definitely want to get in for that 6 damage here. So it's between the Maul or the Bone Splitter. I can Spellbinder next turn. So now they can hold the Stone Coil Serpent back to block, and it soaks up... I think it soaks up 4 damage, because it soaks up 2 damage every time. Oh, I guess with Evolution Sage, though... Oh, yeah, that's really bad for us. They played the Evolution Sage, and for some reason... I'm just in aggro mode here, so I just defaulted to being like, alright, well, that's a 3-2, whatever. But in conjunction with the Stone Coil Serpent, they just keep making it big enough to block the creature. But they had the removal as well for Vraska's Contempt. Exile it and gain 2 life, so now they are back up to 16 instead of 14. And they're back on the aggressive quite well. Yeah, Evolution Sage plus Stone Coil Serpent's real scary here. So let's see what else they have in their hand, see if we can't slow something down. They have a Voracious Hydra and a Pelucranos. Oh no, either one of these Hydras coming out is pretty bad. Oh yeah, this is going to be a really bad time. Voracious Hydra kills something when it comes into play by fighting. They have 4 mana, so they can play it as a 2/3. If they play their land first, then they can play it as a 3/4, fight the Spellbinder, and keep that on the board. With Pelucranos, they have to spend a bunch of mana to do the fighting, so maybe we just let them keep Pelucranos. They're also not that far from being able to cast either of them, even if I make it cost 2 more to cast. I think we're gonna get hit pretty hard by this +1/+1 counter stuff. The proliferation from the evolution stage doing a lot of work here. Because, of course, it is going to combo well with either of those Hydras as well. They could just drop Pelucranos here and then play the land, get a counter on Stonecoil Serpent and Pelucranos. I expect that to be the play. But the alternative, if we hadn't done that, was to make Stonecoil Serpent a 4/4 and then also kill Spellbinder while getting another 3/4 onto the board that's going to get bigger every turn. I think that's mildly worse for us. I'm going to get rid of this Evolution Sage while I can, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough. Yeah, I don't see a way we come back from this, unless, again, we hit like our Bishop of Binding here, get rid of Pelucranos, but then they can fight the Bishop with the Voracious Hydra. There's some more lands for us here. Does mean we have enough to equip all of our equipment, which is why I did put the 17th land in there, so that's good at least. Now this is really big. The problem is with Pelucranos' effect, they can fight Spellbinder. We're not immediately dead if they do that. We are immediately dead if they fight with Voracious Hydra. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They can make Voracious Hydra a 1/2. If they have another land, they can make it a 2/3. All right. We're not dead yet, because Pelucranos will die when it fights the Spellbinder. So we just don't attack. If I draw Embercleave, if they tap out for something here, and then Spellbinder doesn't die, like they don't attack with Pelucranos or something, then I could top deck an Embercleave and we're still in it. Okay, we're not we're not in it at all. Gearhulk's going to put 4 counters how they choose on the creatures. So if they put 1 more counter on Pelucranos, they can attack them with Pelucranos, and I can't block it and survive. Or yeah, alternatively that way, they could just throw all the counters on Stonecoil Serpent, and I have no way to survive this attack because of the trample on the Serpent. So that is just game here. An unfortunate way for things to go for the Boros equipment deck. I do think it was a really cool deck. Really cool deck idea. We definitely had all of the cards for it. It was wide open. Cole did a lot of work. When the deck did function, it was really fun. But definitely can't win them all. We had some opponents with some incredible combos there. The Evolution Sage with the Hydras and stuff was really fantastic to end that last game. And the game that we lost to the Zakama, that was the most explosive play I've seen in this cube in a little while. That was absolutely devastating. Just wrath the board every turn with that 3 damage effect when you have enough mana to just spam it. So pretty cool deck, pretty fun deck. Sad to not be able to play more games with it, because I definitely enjoyed every game I did play with this one. This is definitely my cup of tea, as you can tell by my my avatar and the fact that I drafted mono red in all the previous cubes. This is about as close as you can get in this cube, because there are so many multicolored cards. It's incredibly difficult to go monocolored. But yeah, not a bad way to end the Chromatic Cube drafts, even if it is a 2-3, even if it is not a positive win rate here. It was still a positive experience, a lot of fun games there, and I definitely enjoyed the strategy we got to play around with. So, as always, if you are enjoying all of these draft videos, just stick around on the channel. You can like, comment, subscribe if you want to let the YouTube algorithm know that you're enjoying the videos and you want to see more. And I will see you all again on Thursday for the release of Dungeons & Dragons Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. I am incredibly excited for that set. It's going to feature rolling d20s, rolling 20-sided dice for some of the effects. There's a new dungeons mechanic that looks great. There's a Planeswalker in every color that looks like a lot of fun. Very, very excited to try out that draft format and just hit the ground running there on release day with a premiere draft video. So I will see you all again very soon for that. But as always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again very soon for more Magic Arena.